All right. I wanted to make sure to start off by thanking the fans and really those that were involved with the blue gold game, the fan experience, the operations. I didn't do it after the game, and I wanted to make sure that I opened up this press conference with thanking all those that were involved. But the support, I don't know if it was the biggest crowd that I've had in the 3 or 4 spring games I've been a part of, but it was really impressive. And again, you can't put a value on our players having the opportunity to go out there and have to perform in front of their fans in a game-like environment. And I think it's important. And again, it's a chance for our fans to engage with our players and our players to engage with our fans. And so I wanted to make sure that I start off today by addressing that. Overall, just to recap the spring, again, I'm really pleased with how the spring went, big picture-wise. And we came into the spring with 3 main goals. All right? And number one was, I think, us as a program chasing our full potential. But that goes down to us as individuals truly chasing our full potential. And when you don't have an opponent, it's hard to measure that, all right? And I consistently reminded the entire program, but it's an internal battle, all right? Your opponent is yourself. And I thought they did a good job. We all did a good job at really focusing on that. The second thing, we had to continue to build and elevate the trust that we have, coaches to players, players to coaches, and then players to players. I think that was extremely important to elevate the trust. I truly believe great teams have a trust amongst each other, a camaraderie amongst each other, and that was something we wanted to be intentional with doing. And the football aspect of it, you build trust through consistency, right? You build trust through doing your job or doing what you're exposed to do over and over and over. But there's also a choice to trust those around you that you have to make every day to have success. And I thought we did a really good job there. And the third thing we wanted to focus on was just, again, the understanding that we have to work every day with the understanding that there's delayed gratification. And, I think that was an important reminder for myself and everybody in our program that just because you work as hard as you can today doesn't mean that you're going to reach that goal or whatever it is that you're trying to achieve tomorrow. There's delayed gratification. I always say the greatest things in life take time. And but why we understand that it takes time, you got to get lost in the work. You got to work, right? And during that time, you have to continue to choose to work. And I thought all 3 of those things were things that were well executed by our entire program in the spring. Looking back to when we started, it's about 35 days from when we started open spring ball to where we're at now, and we improved tremendously. Obviously, there's still room to improve, and we'll address that here in the off season, and then as we get back together for fall camp. But we end up having 14 true practices, 14 out of 15. But all 35 days included work. Like, you're not going to just improve by being on the practice field. There's intentional things you have to do off the practice field to continue to elevate as a program. And I was really pleased by what we did there. It was good to have some young guys and some new guys learning the new system, finding ways to develop as individuals. I thought they did a wonderful job there. Some veteran guys that played a lot of plays, and we had to recover, but also return to play, right? Start getting integrated back into what we were doing spring ball wise. And I'm really pleased with our sports performance staff and how we phased those guys in, or even maybe put caps on them in certain practices to make sure we stayed healthy. And the coaches, how we tailor our systems and our philosophies to what our players do well. Like, it's a different group. It's not the exact same group you had last year. And I truly believe that coaches, right, great coaches, you have systems and you have philosophies, but you tailor what you believe in to the talent that you have. And you call things and you demand things that they can execute well and at a high level. And so all those things were truly got accomplished in the spring. And so, speaking of staying healthy, I want to give you just the end of the spring injury report. I know I said Brendan Vernon didn't play in the spring game. He ended up having an MCL surgery. He'll be out for a little bit, but he'll be back by July. Boubacar Traore, Kahanu Kia, Ashton Craig, Jordan Botello will all be able to participate full go here in the summer. And Gerby Lambert and Davion Dixon will continue to work into full training activities during the summer as they return from surgery. And the only player that we don't anticipate being truly full go in the summer, will take a little bit more time in the fall and fall camp, would be Cooper Flanagan, who's still recovering from, rehabbing from surgery that he had at the end of last season. So, what's next for our program? We'll finish up this week with some meetings and their lifting and some coaches, player exit meetings. And then, they'll have finals in the upcoming week. And then they'll get about 3 weeks to kind of, again, go home, go study abroad, work on football development. And they'll have a couple weeks kind of to get away from here and reset as they return back in June to start our summer conditioning phase. Before we know it, we'll be in fall camp. So it goes fast. It seems like we were just here for a post-game press conference, So, but it's been good. I'm enjoying the group. I like this team. I think we've got a really good coaching staff, and it's a fun process to kind of achieve the results that we want. So with that, I'll open up for questions.
Starting off on your right, Tim Priester.
Coach, how would you summarize your conversation with the top two quarterbacks following the departure of Steve Angeli? You had said you wanted a two-man race for the quarterback job. Does somebody have an edge there? And if I could just slip in a yes/no question, will you consider moving Tyler Buckner to back to quarterback just to balance the rooms?
Yeah, that's something we've discussed. We'll look at the total number of arms, bodies that we have to practice, but it is definitely under consideration to be able to move Tyler back into the quarterback room as we look into the summer and fall camp. As far as the Kenny and CJ, again, both we believe have the ability to be the starting quarterback. Both have done a tremendous job in improving through spring practice. Like they every single quarterback has improved, and it was awesome to see. It's just tough when you have limited reps to truly say somebody separated themselves. There was certain days they would get 12 team reps each. It's not many, and that's probably why I said it's hard to have a true three quarterback battle in fall camp. There's just not enough reps to go around, and both of them. It's going to be great because you talk about two guys that don't have much, if any, real game experience, and the thing you can create when you have a competition, a true competition where it's 50-50, you guys are going to battle it out, is you try to put some of that pressure that a real game presents. And you have to perform in practice because you understand if you don't perform consistently, that other guy's pretty good and he might, take off with this race. And so I'm pleased that we're going to have a true competition as we begin fall camp and try to create some pressure situations for those guys that they have to perform so that the first time they feel that pressure isn't going to be when we play Miami, Florida.
And from the outside looking in, having observed the Jersey scrimmage and the blue gold game, I think most of us see a pretty deep and talented football team. As you assess this roster, and of course you've got more guys coming in this summer, how good is this team? What do you see as a ceiling for this program going through 2025?
I think I've matured a little bit since last year where I made the comments of this is the most talented team I've been a part. This is again, this is I really like this team that we put together and that we have, and I think it has a lot of potential. We have to expedite that elevation to reaching our full potential, but outcomes are driven from a lot of different things. The outcomes of a game, right? And the ability to say you won or lost a game. There's so many things that determine that. But when you talk about this team being a really good football team, we definitely have the ability to do that. We just got to continue to develop, and we'll see what the outcomes are, right? Like, if you would ask me after week 2 last year, what's the outlook of this season? I'm just trying to get ready for week 3, but we'll let the outcomes kind of happen when we get to the season. But I do believe we have a high ceiling, and we just got to continue to elevate to reaching that level that we aspire to reach.
Front row on your left, Jack Sobel.
Marcus, you mentioned how the competition in the fall can help with this, but what did you see from CJ and Kenny this spring that gives you confidence in starting quarterback with at most 3 passes thrown in a college game?
There's a lot of things, decision making. Are you making the right decisions is probably the most important thing. Delivering the ball, the ability to create plays, maybe when things are breaking down, and taking care of the football. Like, those are things that we really, really evaluate, and they've done a tremendous job at doing that. You've heard me say this before. I try not to be so outcome driven. What's completion percentage? Because so many things go into that, right? But hey, are we making the right decisions? Are we making the right checks? Are we eliminating self-inflicted wounds? And ultimately, are we taking care of the football? And I thought all of our quarterbacks really did a good job at doing that.
Front row on your right, Eric Hansen.
Hey, Coach, another quarterback question. Given the different or the similar skill sets of CJ and Kenny, do you see a scenario where you could use both of them, that one could be a package quarterback that you would use 2, or do you really, really want to have one and it's 1 and 2 and not 1 and 1A?
Yeah, I could see us, utilizing 2 quarterbacks in different situations, but we're going to have a starter, and then you'll have a guy that can help our football team win games. And if that means we have a special package for a guy, we will. But, I'm not a huge proponent of having truly 2 starters. But that decision is going to be made when they help us make that decision, right? And I don't ever want to put a timetable on that, right? And let's hope that it's before the first game. But at the end of the day, I believe there has to be one guy that is the starting quarterback.
And then there's so much gray area with this roster limit thing right now. Are you going under the assumption that it is going to be 105? And if so, what does the portal outgoing and ingoing look like for you in the next week or so?
We have a plan for if it's 105, and we have a plan for if it's not. And so that's I don't sit and think about if it's going to be 105 or not. It's like, okay, if they cut it to 105, here's our plan, right? And if they don't, here's the plan moving forward. As far as the transfer portal, probably is not affected by the roster limits, right? Again, we're not actively looking for additions to our roster. I mean, again, I don't ever want to say never. If there's something that pops up that we think could help us truly, become a better football team, then we got to look at it and address it. That just doesn't mean talent, though. Like, there could be talent that can add to your program, but if it's not right for the room, it's not worth it. It's not right for the big picture of your football program. But again, we will evaluate if there is a guy that is the right fit for the right room, and make decisions here in the next week or so if there's something that pops up.
Second row on your left, Tyler James.
Marcus, you mentioned the plan if it gets to 105. Has that included conversations with guys who could be vulnerable to not making that 105 so they know and they can make decisions regarding that?
Yeah, I think the conversation with those guys is that, hey, there could be roster cuts to 105. We will have to make decisions to get our roster to 105. And there's going to be guys that have to be cut from the football team, right, in terms of being a part of the active football team and practicing. But there could not be. There may not be. And so as we tell those guys, we understand if you need to make a decision to get into the transfer portal, not knowing what the future holds. But to me, the date they really got to figure that out is by Thursday or Friday, right? Friday, the transfer portal closes. So by Friday, if they're one of those guys that, hey, maybe I'll be impacted by the 105, maybe I won't, that's a difficult day, because if you want to go somewhere and try to make sure you are assured an opportunity to play, we have to respect that and understand that. But the guys I've talked to, I said, you don't have to make that decision until Friday or Thursday, and if there's a ruling here in the next 48 hours, then I guess those questions be answered for us.
And then in terms of if and when it gets to the 105, what is the plan in terms of how many scholarships you guys plan to give out for the 105 roster?
We'll be able to, when we talk actual scholarship numbers, I think we're probably around 95 if it gets to the 105 limit. But if we need to find a way to make sure there's more guys that don't have to pay for school, we have a plan to do that too. But actual scholarship numbers, right now the plan would be around 95.
Back row on your right, Brian Driscoll.
Coach, obviously with the Coach Ash coming in, there's always going to be some adjustments here and there, obviously staying within the philosophy with some adjustments. And I just wanted to kind of ask, about the evolution of the defensive line this spring, obviously with some new players stepping up and coming in and some guys leaving. Just kind of what you saw from that group this spring and maybe some things that you guys are, maybe doing a little bit different and young players that stepped up, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I'll start with the ends. With the exception of R.J. Obin leaving, 90% of your production is back. And again, you got two guys with Boubacar and Jordan Botello that haven't practiced in the spring, but we understand that's production right there. I'm really confident in that room in terms of the end position. They're practicing at a high level. Those guys that are practicing and the guys that aren't practicing right now, they've had a lot of production. And so it's going to be how do we figure out a way to play them all and give them opportunity to have success on the football field. It's a great challenge for us because we have a deep defensive ends room. The tackles, I've said this previously, you don't replace Riley Mills and Howard Cross with two guys. Right now, we can't just replace those guys with two guys, but I believe we have 5, 6 guys that, can really go in there and perform at a high level where we can replace their production with multiple guys, right? Not just with two guys, but it's about replacing production, not the person. And I think about guys like Donnie Heinisch and how he's continued to improve, and Gabriel Rubio and Jason Onye and I go on and on. Jared Dawson's been doing a good job, and Elijah Hughes and Armel Mukum and, Sevillano. I go on. It's a deep room, but you're not replacing Riley Mills and Howard Cross with two guys right now. You're not doing that. You're going to have to do it with multiple guys. But we do have the guys, the depth of guys to hopefully get the job done that we need.
Speaking of replacing on defense, you obviously lost four captains from the defense, right? Jack, Riley, Benjamin, Xavier. One of the things we talked about before the spring was the evolution of leadership on your football team. Coming out of the spring, just kind of how do you feel about, that? Because you've always said you want it to be organic, right? Yeah. How do you feel about how that's evolved over the course of the spring?
Well, I think when I think about some of our players that are leaders, I think the two things that stick out in my head are, number one, they're problem solvers, right? And no matter if they truly, it's their fault or not, or if they can solve the problem or not, they're looked to solve problems. All those guys you mentioned, hey, you can solve the problem on the field, right? Solve the problem off the field. We're looking at you guys as leaders and captains to be problem solvers. And the other thing is that you have to make those around you better. I often say if you're a leader and the temperature, the performance of those guys that you're around or that you're leading is the same when you're there and when you're not, you're probably not that great of a leader. And I believe we have multiple guys that are doing those things, that are leading. They're solving issues, right? They're making those guys around them better, vocally, by the way they practice, challenging guys. I do. And so at some point we'll name captains, but I feel confident in the leadership of our defense and of our team, our offense, special teams. I feel confident that we have enough leaders to make sure that, hey, we're taking care of the issues on and off the field, but also we're making those guys around us perform at a higher level.
Staying on the right side, second row, Adam Rittenberg.
Marcus, I know you welcome competition, but I mean, I know a lot of coaches would just love to name a quarterback. Was there ever a point this spring where you were close to that, or felt like you were on the cusp, or was that never really in the cards for this group?
No, it was never. If one person clearly showed that he was going to be the only answer to making sure we had the most opportunity to have success, we would have named one. But again, we had 3 guys that were performing really, really well over 14 practices, done a really good job. We will continue the competition now with 2 guys as we move forward. But it was never put into a situation where I felt like we needed to do that, right? Because a guy clearly showed that he was going to be the guy to give our offense the best chance to have success.
I'm just curious about the offensive line, bringing back so many players, but usually you think 5 starters back, it's all seniors, but this isn't that group. What excites you about that group from a talent standpoint, and even though that they are younger than a typical fully returning Notre Dame offensive line?
Yeah, I mean, you got guys like Billy and Emil who have started multiple games, multiple years, like that are really good players. Then you got a guy like Ashton Craig who is coming off an injury but was playing at a high level when he was starting for us. And then Charles Jagasaw, a guy that was coming into the season as a starter, tears his pec, but then he comes back and plays in 2 of the biggest games of our season. And then Anthony Knapp, a guy that started as a true freshman, all of a sudden he gets hurt at the end of the season. So I like because they all have big game, big moment experience. They're all really talented football players, high ceiling guys. But they're still guys that maybe have played 2 games, 3 games. So they have to continue to develop too. But I really am excited because they are high ceiling guys. And I think, Billy and Emil are probably as close to the ceiling as you can be. They got room to go. All right, I'll make sure I say that they still have room to grow. But then you have 3 guys that just haven't, not probably played more than anybody, but again, young guys that really have room to continue to improve that have all started for us. So that's what excites me. And now those are 5 guys that we would assume to say, okay, those are your 5 starters. Then the depth of the room, the depth of our room, our offensive line room is really impressive, and credit to Coach Rudolph for the job he's done in recruiting. We've got some really good young guys and guys that maybe haven't played that had a great spring. I think about a guy like Joe Otting, right, that took a lot of reps with the ones, and Sullivan Absher and Gerby until he got hurt, and I'm sure I'm missing some guys, but I mean, the depth of that offensive line room is really impressive.
Last question opportunity for Coach on the left, Pete Byrne.
Hey, Coach. Now that the first spring with Coach Ash is under the belt, I'm curious what sort of changes you noticed in maybe the way he operates or how he likes to do things, and do you expect that, personnel aside, things might look any different at all on the defensive side?
Personnel?
Aside from personnel.
Okay.
How might things look different defensively?
Yeah, we haven't had a long discussion on whether he'll be calling the defense from the field or in the press box. He's done them both. That might be something that's a little bit different. I think any great team still going to be led by great players, right? Any great football program is led by your great players. Head coach wants to take all the credit. It ain't the head coach. It's because we got great players that are leading, that are doing great things, and I don't like to compare, but he's authentic to who he is, right? Chris Ash's his leadership style is his own leadership style, and what I love most is one, watching the results on the field. They're practicing at a high level. They're practicing with energy. They're practicing with effort. A lot of production, but the camaraderie and the trust that's being built with that defensive staff. I think we have a tremendous defensive staff. I mean, everybody knows the Max Bullas and the Mike Mickens and the Al Washingtons, but even some of our new support staff and Andy Boo and some of the younger guys that we've added to our defensive staff have done a really good job. And it's ultimately up to the leader to make sure that we can utilize all those great minds and those great skill sets to really produce the outcome that we want. All right, and that to me is a sign of a great leader, and I think he's done a really tremendous job at doing that. Everybody coaches and stresses certain things. Right? I think there's a philosophy in coaching defense that we all believe in, and the fundamentals and how hard you play and takeaways and being great at tackling. But there's also little skill sets or ways you execute defensively that could be coached differently. And do I want to reroute? Do I want to zone drop and spot drop and play with quarterback vision? You know, am I blitzing? Am I going to time it up, or am I going to be an early guy? Like all these different, these are all football terms that you guys might go, what the heck he's talking about. But like, I think all those little things, depending on the leader, can be coached and taught differently, and still produced a really good outcome. And so I really like the progression of our defense from when he's gotten here, not just through spring, but when Coach Ash has gotten here to where we are today. And I know it won't stop.
What did you learn over the whole of last season about fatigue and load management among the team? And as you get into your summer conditioning, where do you stand between trying to push them to prepare them or pull them back in order to preserve kind of life on their bodies, you know?
Yeah. I think if you look at last year, you know, when you look at a 16-game season, I'm most pleased about really the non-preventable injuries that we were able to, the preventable injuries that we were able to decrease, right? That's, to me, the telling sign of, is your team in shape? Are you practicing the way you need to practice? Are you keeping guys healthy, especially with preventable injuries? There's some non-preventable injuries that you can't. It's the game of football. But the other thing was that our guys that were backups were ready to go. Like that to me is something that I think about last year is the amount of guys that were thrust into important action that were ready to go. Right? And you think of a guy like Charles Jagasaw that didn't play all year because he was hurting, and when his number was called, he was ready to go. I think a guy like Tosh Baker, when his number was called, he's ready to go. Rocco Spindler. I'm just using the offensive line right now, but like when your number is called, like you have to be ready. Well, that's to me a part of the physical conditioning and the weight room and not just, hey, the football preparation. So as I look to this summer, like you can't, I'm going to say that, and then I'm going to say you can't cheat the preparation. Like there is a physical preparation into making sure your team is ready to go week one. Like you guys heard me say this enough, the future's uncertain. So for us to preserve for an uncertain future is crazy. All right, a future that you might not ever get. And so we have to make sure we are ready to go the minute we play that first game. And there's a physical preparation that you have to go through to make sure you're ready. And so we have a great team to kind of come up with our plan. We have a foundation of a couple years of okay, this is what our plan was. Were we ready? This is what our plan was. How do we make it better, though? I'm not a guy that just says this is what we do. Like, challenge everything. Is there a better way to do it? And we've done that this year in the spring. We're going to do it this year in the summer. All right? Is there a better way to do it? If there is, we're going to try it, and then we're going to figure it out. And so our guys are going to work their tails off. They have to. Like, you can't be ready to play this physical, demanding game of football without being prepared the right way.
Coach Freeman, thank you for your time.
All right, thank you.